If you're feeling tired all the time, short with your clients, or questioning whether this career is right for you, you're not alone. Today's guest, Azairreah Hill, wrote a book just for groomers facing burnout. And she's here to help you recognize it, recover from it, and protect your peace going forward. So stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the Shears, where groomers get business savvy. Today, we're having a very real conversation about something that affects more grooming professionals than we often like to admit, and that is burnout. My guest is Azairreah Hill, author of The Burnt the Fur Out, a book written specifically for pet groomers who are exhausted, overwhelmed, or questioning whether they can keep going. In this episode, we're talking through the signs, the boundaries, and the shifts that can help you stay in this profession without losing yourself in the process. Sounds pretty good, right? So, whether you're feeling the early stages of stress or you're in deep burnout, this episode is here to help you feel seen and supported. So, thank you so much, Azairreah, for coming in. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do as a groomer first, and then we'll get into what inspired you to write the book.
For sure. So, firstly, thanks, Crystal, for having me here. I'm a little nervous, but super excited. Um, basically, I've been a groomer for about 8 years now. I started off in corporate. So, I've been in business for about 4 years now. And basically, I've just been doing it all within the pet industry. I have done the pickup drop offs, I've done home grooming, I've done house calls, but now currently I groom inside of a doggy daycare. I lease a space within it, and basically I run my company, AZ Grooms. But yeah, I've just been doing a little bit of everything, and that's what really caused me to make Burnt the Fur Out.
Okay, so wearing so many
hmm
hats and taking on so much
Right,
responsibility that it causes
right,
that burnout to happen faster, right?
right, for sure.
Yeah. Now tell me, where are you located again?
So I'm located in Panama City, Florida,
Ah, I've been
but
there.
most majority of my
Mhm.
business is on the beach side, so Panama City Beach, Florida.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
hmm
So you probably see a lot of like different various clients, so to speak, or fur babies. You probably have a whole range of them then.
I do, yes. I'm actually doodle
Mhm.
certified because majority of my clients are doodles.
Oh,
You
interesting.
know, surprisingly here in the Panhandle and with all the sandy beaches, there's a lot of doodles.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yes, I do see all walks of life, and I do have a very diverse client base,
Okay, awesome.
furry and
So
human.
furry and human, yeah, and sometimes, and I've talked about in the past that sometimes it's those humans that make it
hmm
a little bit tougher. The fur babies you mostly can handle because they'll tell
Right.
you how they are from the beginning, right? But it's just the clients
hmm
that you're like, I could do without that.
Right.
So yeah, for
For
sure.
sure.
Okay,
hmm
so you were telling me obviously what made you write the book Burnt the Fur Out was because you're wearing so many hats. So was there a specific moment in your own journey that you realized that okay, I am burnt out at this point?
There really wasn't a specific moment. I did talk a little bit about one moment in my book, but really, I think within the last year or so, I've just become a little more overwhelmed. Not one specific moment. I think just really just taking on too much at one time and just not listening to my body is what really just caused me to be burnt out.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. So why do you think burnout is so common in this industry? Because it is honestly a key word I hear from my clients and other people within the industry all the time. Because it's interesting that it's especially among solo groomers or even like the younger people coming in, like they seem to be getting burnt out a lot quicker than people that have been doing this for 30 plus years.
So personally, I think within the grooming industry as a whole, I believe that, working with animals cause us to be empaths. So that causes us to be more people pleasing, making sure that not only that the dog or the cat or whatever the pet is really comfortable, but we want to make sure that the client is just overly just satisfied and to make sure that everything is fine. So I think within the grooming industry and being empathic people, it's just causes burnout to be more relevant, especially with solo groomers too. I think that solo groomers, since I'm a solo groomer, I just have a bather every now and then, an on-call bather. I think that we are undervalued sometimes. I think that we can go unseen, and sometimes I think solo groomers are a little bit of overachievers. They really have to try to stand out to be seen. So with taking on so much, not realizing how much people or how much us solo groomers take on, it just causes burnout to come pretty quickly compared to the seasoned groomers.
Gotcha, got you. And I'm
Mhm.
kind of curious is if you like kind of niche down a little bit, if that might take a little bit of that pressure off of you. The reason I say that is because if you
Mhm.
are more of a general groomer, right?
Mhm.
And you take on all kinds of different grooms, like big dogs, small dogs, certain cuts, show styles, just standard. I mean, it can be maybe a little daunting, but maybe if you had more of a
Mhm.
niche, that might be one way you could help because you do more of a consistent client at that point. So that might be
Right.
one way to help out. So
Yeah.
just curious, how did you start working through that burnout? Now, I'm sure that's what kind of the book also addresses is how you got from point A to point B, but
Right.
just how did, maybe what was your first step to start working through that burnout?
My first step personally is finding the right support system, and being vulnerable about how I'm feeling. So I do have a therapist and I have a really supportive partner. So just with just talking about how I was feeling instead of holding in everything and carrying all the hats and all the bags on my back, I really just, I don't know, it freed up the stress off me and made me able to open up and start to really work on my burnout.
Gotcha. Okay. All
Mhm.
right. Awesome. So this is a, question for the audience now. So if you've ever questioned whether or not you were just tired or truly burnt out, what tipped you off with that? So think about what changed in your attitude, your body, or your work. And do me a favor, leave a comment below because I would really love to know like what the different signs and stages were for you individually. So maybe we could start the conversation in the comments. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at some of the signs. Speaking of signs, let's look at some of the signs that you are burnt out, right? So let's talk about maybe a few of the chapters in the book. Just hit on them a little bit because I do want to encourage people to actually get the book and look it over. Um,
Mhm.
so so what are some of the signs of burnout that groomers may overlook or even normalize? Because we kind of do that, right? Where we start experiencing new sensations, feelings, or even thoughts, and we're like, oh,
Mhm.
that's not a big deal. That's just part of the job. Maybe what are
Right.
some of the signs that you can see with that?
Right. So some of the signs that, groomers tend to overlook or people in the service industry tend to overlook is just that feeling of dread, like, oh man, it's another day. I got to do this, or, feeling tired before the day even started. Maybe being a little bit more irritable than you realize, just a little bit snappy when you shouldn't be. You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
ignoring text messages or of starting to avoid people and going out, just simple things like that, you can really tell the burnout is starting to kick in.
Gotcha. Do you think that burnout shows up any differently in groomers than it does other service industries, or is it pretty similar to most places?
So I think that it is pretty similar. um, I have a lot of friends and family in the service industry, and I think like I said before, just having your tribe and just kind of having areas to relate in. Um, you, I was able to see like we were kind of going through the same thing, but it was just a little bit different because I was working with people and pets. They were working with people, but the same signs were there, and the same things that we talked about with burnout was. Um, just doing too much, people pleasing, being very empathetic, and maybe over relating with people and just giving our all to people, like, the service industry is such as waitresses, maybe a nail tech, maybe people in doing childcare or some sort of that. So I think it's pretty similar to groomers in the service industry.
Yeah, you said a really
Hmm.
good word, and that's the whole people pleasing idea. I know
Hmm.
I am an OG people pleaser from way back when. So I
Hmm.
like to always do
Right.
that. And so sometimes also in my particular situation, I can't speak for anyone else but me, but I do
Hmm.
know that sometimes I tend to want to give more than I'm able to. And especially with time management, because that really starts affecting me with time management in that area.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, and
Right.
like for example, with you guys, you might get a phone call, oh, I have an emergency. I have to get my dog groomed today because I have to go on a trip or something's happened and can you
Right.
just work me in today? And
Hmm.
oftentimes many of you guys will say, yes. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, sure, no
Right.
problem. I'm done. You're a
Hmm.
longtime client. I can get you in, no problem. And then, let's just say the room before that one goes over and now you're
Hmm.
rushed, you're putting even more stress on yourself. I'm seeing the head nod, so I think you've been there and done that
Hmm.
before. Yeah.
Most
So
definitely. Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So yeah, that seems to happen a lot with the people pleasing. Of course, that's also dealing with boundaries, setting those
Hmm.
boundaries and staying firm with them. And also,
Right.
I think a lot of times, setting the boundaries when it comes to like, for example, cancellations. If you have no shows,
Hmm.
setting those
Yep.
boundaries that you're going to charge for that because your time is very valuable. I know that's a big one that groomers also have in this industry. All right. So speaking of boundaries, we're going to segue. So the next segment is going to be about boundaries, and they don't bite. It's called boundaries that don't bite. So boundaries can be hard, especially for people who love animals. Like you said, they're empaths. They just naturally want to give and care for these animals, and you also care about the clients. Oftentimes, I should say most of the time, you do have a good rapport with their human, so to speak. So speaking of boundaries, how do you help groomers start setting them? Like, what is one piece of advice to start setting those boundaries?
So I have a really great gym. So I said I'm in therapy. I'm a big mental health advocate. My therapist had told me, you you should set low expectations and high boundaries. And I don't say to just drop everything and have no expectations at all. I mean, when you have low expectations, basically it protects your peace. And if you have high boundaries, it protects your business. So as a groomer, saying this to another groomer, that's what I would say, because it just shows your self-respect when you have more boundaries or higher boundaries. And then when you have lower expectations, basically you just never know what, when I say that, you just never know what people are going to give you. So don't expect them to give you exactly what you want. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and really don't
Hmm.
expect anything from them, really, because they're going to show up
Exactly.
the way they
Hmm.
do. And that was another thing that I know myself I've had problems with in the past. Like I'll even plan a trip, for example, and I'm expecting it to go a certain way. I'm the itinerary queen, right? And so, but what it does is it just creates stress from the get go. So if like, one little thing goes wrong, it's it's going to mess it up.
Right. It basically just alleviates the disappointment and the frustration and the added stress.
Yeah, I think you said it really well a while ago. You said it protects your peace. That's the best way to put it. It protects your peace. Absolutely. So, what is one boundary you wish you had set earlier in your career, or early on?
I would say people pleasing and as they say, standing on business, standing firm.
Yeah.
That's what I really wish I had in the very beginning. Even when I worked at corporate, I wish I still wasn't a people pleaser, because I did tend to get walked over, and I think it's just in my nature, just to being super, super friendly, super nice, and like I said, empathetic. Sometimes too sympathetic too, but in the very beginning, yes, I really needed to learn how to say no and be okay with it and just stand on business and be firm with it.
Yeah. So, whenever you get those people or those clients that tend to push that boundary, because we all have them, right? We all do. Whether it's clients, coworkers, or staff, or even from family, how do you respond to that typically?
I'm going to say my therapist a lot, but
You're fine. Yeah, it's fine.
yeah. So working with my therapist, I've learned, with the family and clients, basically, like I said, just standing firm and being okay with no, because no is a full sentence. There's a period at the end of that. And there's really nothing more. You don't have to explain yourself. And if you do find yourself explaining, just keep it as minimum as possible. There never has to be a why, because the why is you. That's the reason. And you don't have to explain yourself to anybody.
The why
Hmm.
is you. I like that. The why is you. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
like you said. I mean, that's very true because it's kind of like it's funny the old adage because I said so.
It,
So
it it really
it's
is
like
that. It's kind of
it
like a
really is that. Yeah, it's like
hmm
those are my
yeah,
boundaries. That's my rule. And
yeah.
if you're gonna work with me and be a client, then you have to respect that. So for sure.
Right. It's a very I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Or I'm
Yeah,
not sorry, but
exactly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, but not sorry. Yeah, that's just the way it is. So oftentimes that can come with a certain level of guilt, right? So because we're setting those boundaries, it has that guilt. So the next section in the book, we're talking about the guilt-free groomer. So chapter 3 is really all about guilt, and I know a lot of groomers feel guilty when they say no, taking time off, or even the big one is raising prices. So when you have to raise those prices, because why? Cost of living, we have to live, right? So why do you think that is? Why do you think groomers start feeling that guilt?
I think groomers start to feel the guilt with, the raising the prices or saying no, or just even implementing their policies. They don't see the worth in what they offer. And maybe there's a little bit that lacks there, like just a little bit of confidence that lacks there.
Okay, awesome. All right, so yeah, so it's probably the self-worth, kind of like a according, kind of like that limiting belief that I'm not worthy type thing, that kind of that broken record that keeps getting in all of our minds because we all, I think, have some level of it. And then enters, and of course, then enters the imposter syndrome really bad at that point. And then all you need is that one client to validate that belief for you by saying, "Oh, you didn't do this right, or you did this wrong. That's not what I asked for." And then it just becomes a spiral after that. And so I know also with my industry with accounting, I mean, we sometimes do that too. In fact, I think accountants have imposter syndrome really bad, by the way. That's an industry secret, by the way. We're all questioning, is like, am I reading this right? And the second that somebody else says, no, that's wrong, you're like, oh, I knew it. I can't do this, so I get that. So, what helps you personally start separating your worth from the workload?
Personally, for me, is really just first of all, seeing where I'm at, just being present with who I am and how I've gotten there, just reconnecting with what I need and not only with what I need, but what I want. So I think I just listening to myself helps me kind of create a work life balance so that I can separate the two.
Like that work-life balance, it's very important. And also, I think you also hit on about self-compassion as well, being gentle with yourself as well, and that's really important as well. Taking that time, because if we don't take that time for ourselves, it's gonna be impossible for us to grow, even as individuals. And then that's when the what started out as a passion becomes a project, and the project then becomes a have to job, right? So your business then becomes just a job, and then you start resenting it at that point. So that's kind of like where things start going pretty quickly. So, all right. So, audience, I'm going to talk to you now for a second. All right. What's one thing you've done this week just for you? Be honest. What's one thing you've done just for you? Not your clients, not your pets, just you. If it's been a while, you need to ask yourself why. And if you want to, put in the comments below. I'd like to hear what's something that you've fun that you've done this week just for yourself. All right. So, the next segment we're going to talk about is imagining life after overwhelm. So, you said this in chapter 4 about imagining your life after overwhelm. So, what does that look like in real terms as far as how do we start imagining our life? What is a way we can start doing that?
I think it's just getting real about what you want, maybe first, seeing what you need to, create the boundaries and just standing firm on that first. But once you have what you need, then you can figure out what you want. So it's pretty much different for everybody, but I feel like that is the baseline of where you should start to figure out what's for you after life or after, yeah, burnout after life. Mhm.
Okay. And so, what is one thing that you hope that readers will take away from your book, even if they just read like one chapter? I tell you what, let me rephrase that. If you had to choose any chapter for your reader to read, do you have a favorite
Mhm.
one? Like just at least read this one chapter.
Yeah, mine would be the basically the boundary chapter, boundaries that don't bite, because I think boundaries are the biggest things that a lot of us struggle with. That's what really causes burnout in the beginning. So I would say start off with that one and then work around the rest because it's really in the middle of it anyway. It's chapter 3. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to go ahead and I'll go ahead and start wrapping this up here really fast. So, thank you so much for being here and writing this wonderful book. It truly speaks to the heart of our profession. I should say your profession. That's going to say ours. I'm just a side person over here, right? So, burnout is not weakness. It is a signal. It's a signal for you to start paying attention to your body, to your mind, and to your spirit because they're all connected. And we don't have to ignore it or carry it alone. Can you share can you share with us the best places to follow you on social medias area, if you don't mind?
For sure. You can find me on TikTok or you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is at AZGrooms with a Z.
AZ AZ Grooms, almost like Arizona. AZ Grooms. All right, awesome.
Hmm.
All right. Well, to everyone listening, if you're feeling overworked and overwhelmed or disconnected from why you started the grooming business to begin with, then I hope today's conversation will remind you that your well-being really matters and you do matter as well. And there's support out there for you. So you can go seek that and you shall find. So you can find Burned the Fur Out on Amazon. So be sure to check that out. I will have a link in the
Hmm.
description below. And thank you so much again for all of your insights and feedback. I appreciate it. If you want to talk more about this, then come join us inside the Pet Biz Collective. And we're having real conversations about building careers that will not burn you out. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.